Hello everyone. Welcome to Learning TradeStation. This is an introduction to EasyLanguage. My name is Jesus Nava and I'm in the Client Training and Education Department here at TradeStation. In today's class, titled Introduction to EasyLanguage, these are our class objectives. We're going to talk about the development environment in TradeStation. We're going to show you how to create a show me, how to create an indicator, create alerts, use functions, create a strategy, modify built-in indicators, and then we're going to use EasyLanguage and radar screen. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about here today is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations. Also, everyone should be aware of all the risks that are associated with trading online. It is not suitable for everyone, especially when it comes to options which carry a high degree of risk. I am going to share 2 links that go into more detail about those disclosures. You're welcome to read more about them. Those disclosures are also available on our website, TradeStation.com. Let's get started with a definition. For those of you that are not familiar with EasyLanguage, EasyLanguage is TradeStation's proprietary programming language. With EasyLanguage, you can combine words, operators, and punctuation to create rules or instructions that TradeStation can understand. Those instructions we're going to combine with market data, and the instructions are going to react to the market data that you're providing it. TradeStation will follow your rules one by one, whether it is an indicator or a strategy that you create. What are the benefits of learning EasyLanguage? Well, first of all, you can translate your trading ideas into analysis techniques and strategies using EasyLanguage. You can also edit and modify the EasyLanguage that is built into the platform. All analysis techniques, studies, indicators, show me's, paint bars, they are all written using EasyLanguage. So it's a great opportunity for you to be able to open the EasyLanguage documents for these analysis techniques and be able to understand, not only understand how they're written, but also edit and modify the content if you want to modify the calculations. You can also visit the EasyLanguage forum. There's a library of different documents that you can bring into your TradeStation platform, and you'll have the ability to read and understand what others have written. Gives you an extra edge as well. You're able to understand how analysis techniques and strategies are calculated on the platform, and that way you can be a little bit more efficient when it comes to writing these strategies and indicators. But before we get started in programming our own analysis techniques and strategy, let's talk about the data that is used in EasyLanguage. We talked about market data that you can use when you have these rules and instructions. But what type of data do we have available? It doesn't matter if you're using what's called an open high-low close bar or a candlestick. The data points are the same. We have the open, the high, the low, and the close of the bar. And in your EasyLanguage, you can reference each one of these data points. You can also reference date and time. We have volume data. So you have the number of shares or contracts traded on every single bar, and you also have the number of ticks or the number of transactions that have occurred. We have options related data. So if you're talking about implied volatility, option volume, option open interest, all that is available on each bar. We have fundamental data and open interest. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that these data pieces are only relevant to the symbol that you have on the chart. So if you have a chart, for example, on Microsoft, you know that Microsoft has fundamental data. But it doesn't have open interest because because Microsoft is not an option or a futures. So the data pieces are all there, but they're only going to be available depending on the symbol that you have on the chart. All data is managed and maintained by TradeStation, so you don't have to be concerned with downloading data and maintaining a database for your instructions to work. All this is done by TradeStation, and the only thing you need to do is reference the data points using your EasyLanguage. Analysis techniques and strategies start calculating on the first bar of a chart. So if you want your indicators to calculate from 10 years ago, just make sure that you have 10 years of historical data on your chart. But once you insert an analysis technique or a strategy on a chart, this will start on the very first bar of the chart and it will go forward to the most current bar, and it will calculate your rules and instructions bar by bar until it reaches the most recent bar, which is the one that is building at the moment. That bar that is receiving real-time ticks or real-time data is going to make your analysis techniques and strategies calculate on every single tick by default. It's turned on. You don't have to do anything. So not only inserting the indicator takes care of the calculations historically, but you can also have this indicator calculate on real time as new data comes in. We have designed this class with a series of exercises that are going to introduce you to some of the EasyLanguage programming concepts. And this is our exercise number 1. We're going to use formulas and functions as inputs. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but every time that you edit a study or a strategy, you have this dialog that allows you to use any type of formula or function when you format the inputs of an analysis technique or a strategy. Let's go ahead and take a look at this on TradeStation, and I'll show you some of the things that you can do. But we can do little formulas like high plus low inside parentheses divided by 2. That'll give you the midpoint or the mid price of the bar. We can do formulas in a abbreviated format, like for example, O is for open, H is for high, L is for low, and C is for close. Here we're adding all the data points of the bar and dividing them by 4, which would give you an average price for the whole bar. We have the open minus the close, which gives you the real body, right, of the candle or the bar. Or we can just have a more, mathematical formula like an average. TradeStation EasyLanguage has built-in functions that take care of most mathematical formulas out there. It's just a matter of knowing where to find those functions and how they're structured in EasyLanguage. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's do our exercise number 1, and I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy this. I'm going to go back to my TradeStation. Okay, this is TradeStation 10, and I'm just going to start with a chart. I'll click on Apps, Chart Analysis, and with TradeStation, we have a series of analysis techniques that you can use that provide you the ability to customize them. Let me go back here to my studies, add study. Okay, and I'm going to add something called, in the indicator section of this dialog, I'm going to come here to custom 1 line. Notice that we have a custom 1 line, 2 lines, 3, 4 lines, and a custom quote. So all these indicators or analysis techniques that start with the name custom, they are built into the platform so that you can customize them. Let's use number 1. I have this checkbox that says prompt for editing. Well, let me uncheck it so that you can see what it looks like, because every one of these custom indicators has a built-in formula already in it. So if I just insert the indicator and I click OK, it'll go at the bottom of my chart, providing me a calculation that I'm not really sure what it is, but I'll show you where you can find out. I'm going to double click on my indicator so that it takes me to the Customize Indicator dialog. If you've been to my previous classes, you know exactly how to get here. And there's an Inputs tab that allows you to provide that formula to this indicator. Here it is, formula, and it says right here in parentheses, close minus the close, and you see this 10 inside square brackets. This is a historical reference in your chart. So if you want to reference any data point, not on the current bar, but on a bar in history, when you supply the number inside square brackets, that's telling EasyLanguage that it has to go back 10 bars or 10 candles and take the closing price of that candle 10. But I can come here and change this to any formula that I want. In fact, I can just type in a data point. If I just type in the word close and I click OK, take a look. This is pretty much giving me a line connecting the close of every candle that you see right there on top. If you look over here on the right, this is pretty much plotting the closing price. $90.34 is the price of Microsoft, and that's exactly what it shows up here at the top. Since I told the custom one line to plot the close, that's pretty much what it's doing. And it's doing that on every historical bar. So whatever the closing price is on every bar in history, that's what this line is doing. Let me go back to the indicator. I'm going to change this formula and say, for example, high minus the low. If you do high minus the low, you're going to get the range, right? So let's go ahead and take a look. High minus the low. That's all that I need. And I'm going to click OK. And there it is. This is giving you the range. The range on the current bar right now, the bar that is building, is right here, 0.14. Just take the high minus the low and it gives you a value of 14. And you can see that historically you can see these spikes where it gives you a higher range. For example, right here, if I look at the range of this spike, it gives me a range of 66 cents. So this bar right here, this long bar, there was an uptick on the market, was an uptick of 66 cents. So you can do small calculations like this to pretty much know certain information about the bars that are being built. Of course, you can take this and create more complex formulas. Let me go back in there and say, well, this is pretty cool. This is the range of the bar plotted on every single bar. What if I want to average that? Well, in TradeStation, there are certain functions that you can use. And right here on every indicator dialog, there's a dictionary button that you can access. Let me show you how you can work with this. Let me click on the dictionary, and it'll take you to the EasyLanguage dictionary. That's the dictionary that's built into the platform. And over here under category, I'm going to go to user functions and scroll down on this list of functions on the right, and you're going to find a function for average. So I do encourage everyone to come here and look at all the functions that are available. There's a lot of mathematical functions here. But as soon as I highlight average, I can look down below and it gives me an example. Like for example, it says value 1 equals the average of the close of 9 bars. So let's take a look. Average has to be followed by a parentheses, and inside the parentheses you have to tell the average function what is it going to average and for how many bars. So it's looking for two parameters, the price that is being averaged, and it's also giving you or expecting you to provide how many bars do you want you to calculate into the average. So let me go ahead and click on cancel out of here, and I know that I have to provide that information up here in the formula. So I'm just going to type in the word average. My calculation is the high minus the low, but I want to average that value. I'm just going to add a comma right here, right after high minus low, and provide a 20 inside the parentheses. So what I'm telling the average function to do is to take the high minus the low on the bar, but remember that value on every bar for 20 total bars, and then create an average of that. When I click OK down here, take a look. The line at the bottom is not so staticky. It's not so noisy. Now I can see an average of the values for 20 bars. If you look here on the right-hand side, the average range for the past 20 bar has been 17 cents. The nice thing about these custom indicators is that you can change the data interval on the chart and the indicator will automatically recalculate. So I could come here and go to the time frame and say, let me see a daily chart. Here's daily. So for the past 20 days, we can see a big spike on Microsoft. The average range has been $2.48 in the past 20 days, which makes sense given the volatility that's been occurring in the markets. If you change the symbol, same thing, it'll recalculate. Let's look at SPY, SPY. And you can see that Spiders has had an average range of $4.56 for the past 20 days. Let's go over here to exercise number 2. We're going to create an indicator. And as it says right there on the slide, this indicator is going to plot a line representing the real body of each candle. The value will oscillate between positive and negative values. So if you're a candlestick user, you know exactly what the real body of a candle is the thick part of the candle. If I look at my TradeStation, let me go back here to my platform. Let me open up my chart here. So a lot of these candles have a thick part and they also have a thin wick. We're not talking about the wick. We're talking about the thick part of the candle that is the real body, which is from the open to the close, or from the close to the open, depending on how you want to look at it. So we're going to create an indicator that measures the distance between the open and the close and tell us a value. So if I look at here at the slides, if we look at this particular image that you see here, this is a candle. We see that is a red candle, so we know that the open was at the top. So it opened at 16 and it closed at 12. Everybody sees that there, right? So we know that the real body is the difference between the open and the close. So in this particular example, the real body is 4, because if you take the difference between the 16, which is the open, and the 12, which is the close, that gives you a 4. However, in a candlestick concept, you know that that candlestick is a down candle. So what we want is for the candle is to be represented as a -4, and for any up candle to be a positive number. So the formula that we would want to use here is close minus open. Close minus open here would give us a 12 minus 16, which turns into a negative value. If you do open minus close, it gives you a positive number. So there's a difference. In this particular case, since I'm looking at a down candle and I want that represented by a negative number, then I have to use the order of operations that would give me a negative number. Let's go ahead and create this indicator. I'm going to go back to my TradeStation, and in order for you to open up the development environment, you probably noticed that when TradeStation installed and you go to the programs in your computer, there's 3 items. I'm not going to show it here because my start button is not here, but go to Start, the Windows Start button, and you go to Programs, and you open up the TradeStation folder. There's going to be 3 things there. Not only the TradeStation platform, you're going to have also the TradeStation development environment, and you're also going to have the TradeStation ticker bar. But if you're already in TradeStation and you want to access the development environment from within TradeStation, just go to your apps at the top. And in this case, we're just going to click on the EasyLanguage button right here in the apps panel. Once you click on EasyLanguage, this will open up the TradeStation development environment. Okay, it may be a little bit intimidating, but it's not really. We're going to start creating some basic indicators from scratch, and I'll show you how easy this is. I'm going to go to the File menu, go to New, and I'm going to click on Indicator. This gives me a dialog where I can type in the name of my indicator. I'm going to start my name with an exclamation mark and call this real body. And you may be asking, why are you starting the name with an exclamation mark? When you create indicators that are custom, your indicators are going to be sorted in alphabetical order with everything that already exists in the platform. So if you want to give yourself a little bit of organization, start the name of every indicator you create with a prefix. In this case, I'm just using a special character because when it gets sorted, the exclamation mark gets sorted to the very top of the list. It's just easier to find. If you don't provide it with a prefix, then they're all going to be sorted in alphabetical order. And if you create 20, 30, or 50 custom indicator, it's going to be a headache trying to find what is custom and what is built into the platform. So make sure that you always provide a prefix. And another thing that I'm going to do here is right here at the bottom where it says template, I'm going to start with no template, so it starts with a blank document. All right, there we go. At the top, we have a tab here that says real body, and this is the way we start our own indicator. Now, I'm just going to start typing. I'm just going to start with the word hello, and you can see that the font is really small. So let me go ahead and make the font bigger, and you can do this also in your development environment. I'll go to Tools, Options, and let me make my font a 16, so it's easier for your eyes. There we go. And I'm just going to erase the word hello. Makes no sense in EasyLanguage. Okay, so we did say that we were going to create an indicator that calculates the real body calculation, and we said that we need the word close. Now I want you to notice something. As you start typing, the development environment is going to give you this box below it, which provides you different suggestions of things that it thinks that you're trying to type. Like it's just going to give you a list of everything that matches what you just typed. For this class, we're just going to ignore it. I can press the escape key on the keyboard, and it'll go away. So I'm going to just type in close minus open. You're also going to notice that some words here come up in blue. Blue are reserved words. Let me make my font even bigger. Tools, customize, no, not customize, so we can go here. Tools, options, and I'll make my font a 20. Okay. So here we have close minus open. I was saying that the blue are reserved words. These are words that EasyLanguage understands. You type close, it turns blue. Oh, I understand that. That's the closing price of the bar. And there's a lot of words that you're going to be using in the code that TradeStation already built into the code, and it understands what it is. It knows exactly where to go to get that. Okay, so let's talk about some EasyLanguage elements. I'm going to go back here to my slides and show you some of those elements. First of all, EasyLanguage is not case sensitive. So it doesn't matter if you use capital letters. It doesn't matter if you use lowercase. EasyLanguage doesn't care about that. You can type in everything in lowercase and it is fine. Type everything in capital letters and that's fine too. Next, line returns and line spacing, paragraph indents are for readability only. They do not affect the EasyLanguage instructions. So if you want to use a little bit more space in between words, if you want to give a little bit more space in between lines, that's totally up to you. That just makes your code a little bit more organized. It doesn't matter for EasyLanguage. EasyLanguage does require the proper use of punctuation. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And you're going to put expressions together to form a statement. And here's the first rule of punctuation. Right there at the very end of that slide, it says every statement ends with a semicolon. It's very important that when you write code and you finish a statement, you have to provide a semicolon so that EasyLanguage understands this is a complete idea and I'm going to start another one. Let's go ahead and continue writing our code. I'm going to come over here to my development environment. I'm going to use a concept in EasyLanguage that is a variable. A variable in EasyLanguage is just a container. A container that's going to hold a particular formula. My formula right there that you see close minus open, I'm just going to enclose that in a variable so that whenever EasyLanguage sees that variable, it knows exactly what the formula is. Variables allow you to type in something really complex and not have to type it again. What you do is you type that complex formula into the variable, and then you just have to use the variable every time you need it. So it's very convenient for you to use these containers. For this class, we're going to use the pre-built variable, which is value. You can have different values, value 1 up to value 99, so different values. This is value 1, and value 1, it's equal to the close minus the open. That's my first statement. And at the very end of the statement, as we learned in our previous slide, we're going to end this with a semicolon. Right? Value 1 equals close minus the open. So take a look. I'm going to tell the chart to plot. And plot is an action that EasyLanguage understands. And I'm going to number this plot as plot number 1 because you can have multiple plots in an indicator. If you look at, for example, the RSI indicator, the RSI, not only it plots the RSI value, but it also plots the oversold and the overbought levels. So when you type in plots in your indicator, you are pretty much telling EasyLanguage how many lines your indicator is going to have, or how many columns your radar screen indicator is going to display. In this case, this is my plot number 1, and in parentheses, I'm going to tell my chart to plot value 1. This is my second statement, and I end it with a semicolon. And that's all. That's everything you need to do to calculate a value and then plot that value on the chart. Let's go ahead and see what this indicator looks on the chart. But before I put it on the chart, there's a process that you have to go through which is called verification. And verification is the process by which the development environment is going to take your code and compile it into an indicator and create it for you to be able to use it. Not only does it compile it, but it also checks for errors. So I'm going to click on this check mark at the very top. You can see that if you hover over it, it says verify. Or you can right click on your open document right here, and you also have the option to verify. If you're a keyboard person, verify can also be done by pressing the F3 key, as you can see right here in the menu. I'm just going to click on verify, and I get this little pop-up window that says, if this study strategy is currently applied, it will automatically be recalculated. That's fine. This pop-up window comes up every time that you verify. And it's just telling you if this indicator it's already been used in a chart, it'll be recalculated because you made changes to the code. I don't need to see this message every single time. So I'm going to disable it by clicking on Don't Show Me This Again and click OK. If you look at the bottom, it says 0 errors, 0 warnings. That box that you see right there at the bottom is my EasyLanguage output. And if I had an error here, the error would appear at the bottom. Let me show you one error so you can see what it looks like. Let's say that I separate the word or the letter C from the word lose, and I try to verify it. I'm just going to click on the button on top here. Oh, it highlights the area where it doesn't know what to do, and right here at the bottom it tells you semicolon expected here. This plot has never been assigned a value. So sometimes it tries to understand what the problem is, but you know for a fact what happened here. Oh, there's an extra space. I mean, I didn't realize I had a space in there. So we come back here, remove the space, verify again, and then you have 0 errors, 0 warnings. All right? Yes, it's similar to a syntax checker, like Forrest is suggesting right there at the bottom. So once we have the indicator verified, now we can go back to TradeStation and insert it. Let's go back to my TradeStation. Let me remove that indicator at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to reduce the bar spacing here, and I'm going to click on Studies. Same way that you access TradeStation's built-in indicators. I'm going to go in there, and if I scroll to the very top, there it is, our first indicator part of the platform. I'm just going to click OK, and it goes right there at the bottom of the screen. So the indicator right here, what it's doing is calculating the difference between the open and the close and giving you a value right here. One thing that I did not do, and this is something really important, when you look at this indicator fluctuates between positive numbers and negative numbers. Why? Because some candles are up and some candles are down. That's obvious. And this indicator, it would make a lot of sense to have a 0 line, right? So that if you have a 0 line, you know where the crossovers are. If you look back over here, you don't know if that value is negative or positive. You'd have to look over here on the scale. But I want to have a reference line so that I know where the line is going to the positive side and when it's going to the negative side. I'm going to go back to the code. Let me go back to the code. And over here, I'm going to add another plot. Remember that plots are the different lines of your indicator. So plot number 2, and inside here the value, I'm just going to plot 0. The easiest way for you to do a horizontal line is to provide that value in a plot statement, and every single bar, the chart will draw at that value, and it'll look like a horizontal line. So by me adding this plot number 2 and plotting the value 0, take a look. I'm going to verify it. Remember that every time you make changes to the code, you have to verify it so that it compiles that change. So take a look at the indicator, because it's interesting that it did take the plot 0, and you can see that blue line at the bottom or right in the middle of that oscillator, letting you know where the 0 line is. Any values that are above that line are positive, and any values that are below are negative. Let's go over here to our slides, because we're going to go to exercise number 2. Or 3. This is exercise number 3. We're going to use EasyLanguage functions. So we're going to modify the real body indicator that we created to plot a line representing the average of the real body over a user-specified number of bars. Okay, so let me go back to my development environment. I'm going to introduce you to the EasyLanguage dictionary. Right here in the development environment, if you look on the right-hand side where my cursor is, you're going to find that there are 2 buttons. One says Dictionary and the other says Properties. If you take your cursor and you hover over Dictionary, the dictionary rolls out. It's like a panel that rolls out when you hover over it. And I can resize it so that it makes more sense, or you can read it easier. There's a lot of things going on here. Remember that the language is very extensive. And you can take, simple concepts into the more complex mathematical concepts that are out there. But here, I'm just going to open up the section for EasyLanguage. You see that it's the second section. And the subcategories, there's one that says user functions down here. So I'm going to highlight user functions, and that'll give you access to all the functions within TradeStation. I'm going to just look for average, highlight it, and here it tells you how to use the function average. It gives you a summary, what the function does, the parameters that it needs. It tells you that it needs price and length, similar to what we saw in the dictionary when we accessed it from within the customized study dialog. Remember that when we clicked on dictionary? This is the same dictionary. We're just accessing the dictionary from within the development environment. And here it tells you, or it gives you an example on how to use the function. Here we see value 1 equals the average of the close for a period of 9 bars. So we're going to do that exactly in our indicator. So come over here to the code, and let's go ahead and add another plot here. I'm going to do plot number 2, and I'm going to change my 0 line to plot number 3. And plot number 2 will be the average. And notice how it comes up a different color. Functions in EasyLanguage come up in magenta. So we know that the blue ones are reserved words that EasyLanguage understands, but these purple words are pieces of code. They are formulas that are built into the language, and you can use them in your code. But there are certain parameters that you have to supply. If I just use the word average, EasyLanguage will give me an error because EasyLanguage is expecting the function average to have 2 pieces. First, it needs to know what to average. And I'm going to average value 1. And I'm going to average it for 20 bars. Notice something that I did. I opened up the parentheses for the average function. I closed the parentheses for the average function. But everything has to be contained inside parentheses. So even though it may seem like I typed in 2 parentheses by mistake, they are needed. One to close the average function, and the other one to close my plot statement. And that's fine. And at the very end, of course, make sure that you have that semicolon letting EasyLanguage know this is a totally different statement, and it needs to be read on its own. So we have plot 1, which is plotting the close minus the open, raw formula. Then we have plot 2, which is the average of value 1. See, I didn't have to type in close minus open because it was already contained in value 1. And it's averaging that value for a period of 20 bars. Let's verify this. Take a look. There you see more of the line going up and down. It's not averaging so many values. And if you look here on the right-hand side, the average is a negative number. So yes, as Forrest said, this is a good way for you to know, okay, what are the majority of the bars doing? Are they on the positive side or the negative side? So we're starting to create a more interesting concept. Maybe the raw calculation of knowing if it's negative or positive doesn't really tell us much. But if you take a collection of recent bars and you average these values that are negative and positive and see what's the result, it may be giving you an indication of where the market is headed. And all those different variations that you're thinking of, I see Robert's comment about if you wanted to take the max minus the minimum of close value for the past 30, all those different variations of this idea, yes, they are possible. Of course, they require a little bit of programming, and I do, it's very exciting when you're able to, come up with an idea and say, is this possible with EasyLanguage? Yes, most definitely. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this. I'm going to come back to my code, and let's see if we can go on to our next exercise. Exercise number 4 is creating alerts. We're going to modify the average real body indicator to generate an alert every time the average crosses the 0 line. So alerts are interesting because once you have a plot in line, then you can start creating alerts. So let me go ahead and show you how you can do that. I'm going to come here to my code, and it's very simple to do. If value 1 Doesn't get any more complicated than this, so it's really, really cool. If value 1 crosses above 0, then alert. That's everything that controls the alert criteria. Once you type in the word alert, EasyLanguage knows that it has to go there to the settings of the alert and trigger it. Now what is going to, so the alert is very important to enclose it in an if-then statement so that it only gets triggered at a certain condition. Crosses above or crosses over, you can also use crosses over, we can use that too, crosses over 0. It's an expression that EasyLanguage understands. Notice that it's blue. It knows exactly how it's calculated. And we're going to do the other side. If value 1 crosses under 0, then alert. So once you have your alert criteria in the code, we come here and verify. Verification is successful. This will not change the calculation of the indicator. We're just adding an additional alert criteria. But once you have your alert in place, I can come here to TradeStation. I can double-click this indicator, and I can come to the alerts and enable the alert. So once I do that, every time this value, and that's one thing to remember. When you create an alert, it only works on the current bar. Only on the current bar as new data is coming in. So if this value, which right now it's at -06, goes to the positive side, I should get an alert. I'm not sure if there's any symbols that are generating the alert. Here's one. But there's a little pop-up window showing up in my TradeStation letting me know, hey, Microsoft is crossing at this moment. So this is a good way for you to know which symbols are turning from positive to negative or negative to positive, which is great. In fact, let me turn off this alert. This is going to drive me nuts. Let me go back to the indicator, and I'm going to say once per bar, and click OK. We're going to go over to exercise number 5, which is creating a show me. A show me, it's a very interesting analysis technique in TradeStation because it's going to mark events in history if the criteria was met. The show me will display a dot. That's what the slide says. It will display a dot on the bar that meets specific criteria. So it'll identify the bar where the average real body oscillator crosses from positive to negative and vice versa. So let me come back here to my TradeStation. Remember that we talked about this indicator and we set up the alert. And we said that the alert will only happen on the current bar. Doesn't care what happened historically. It doesn't care how many times this indicator crossed from positive to negative or negative to positive. It only reads the current tick and if it's meeting the criteria. However, if you want to know historically where the alert was generated, create a show me, because a show me is a type of analysis technique that if it happened, it's going to put a dot on that bar, on that candle. So let's go ahead and go to the development environment here. And this is an indicator. And what I'm going to do is copy some of the code here. That's something that you can do. I'm a fan of copy and paste because that means that I can open up any indicator in TradeStation like RSI, Bollinger Band, and you don't have to recreate those from scratch. You can just copy the code and paste it into your own. And I do that a lot on my development. So let's go over here to File, New, and instead of creating an indicator, I'm going to create a show me. So I click on show me. This same dialog comes up. I'm going to call this real body cross. Again, I don't want any template, so the template is none, and I click OK. And I'm going to right-click down here and type in, or select paste from the shortcut menu. So I've just copied the code from my indicator over here into my show me, which I'm going to be using. Why? Because the plot statements are going to be enclosed inside a conditional statement. I'm going to say if value 1 crosses over 0, then plot 1. Value 1. We don't need these other plot statements. Actually, let's take that back. Because what I want is I want value 1 to be this, the average. So I'm going to type in the average up here because that's the value that I want to see if it's above 0 or not. So I'm going to do average of the close minus the open for a period of 10 bars. Okay, so now I don't need this plot statement and I don't need the 0 statement either. I'm just removing or cleaning my code. So if value 1 crosses over 0, then plot. So this is the type of analysis technique that will only show up if the condition is true. And I'm going to do the other side. If value 1 crosses over 0, then plot 2. And we're going to do, in this case, we're not going to do value 1 because the show me, what it does is going to put a dot wherever you tell it to put the dot. So if the value crosses over 0, then I want the plot to be on the high. And if it crosses under 0, this should not say over, say under 0, so it's on the negative side, I want the plot to be on the low. It's an interesting way that you can do this, all right? So let's go ahead and verify this. I'm going to right-click and verify. And let's put this show me on my chart to see what it does. I'm going to come over here to my TradeStation. Go to Studies, Add Study, and this time I'm going to have to click on Show Me to see it, and it's right here at the top of my list, Real Body Cross. I click OK, and it's hard to see because it's very small dots, so I'm going to make them bigger. I'm going to go to Studies, Edit Studies. I want to edit my cross study, so I'm going to customize it over here, and I want those dots to be as big as possible and the color to be as bright as possible. So let me make these are red. I'm going to make them purple like that. And I'll make these, yeah, that's fine. I'll click OK and close. So take a look. Every time that there's a crossover, on the average, I get a dot. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look. I know it's hard to see because we have this line that's giving us the raw calculation. Let me go ahead and hide that line. That red line that you see right there, it's messing up my scale, and it's really hard for me to see the crossovers. So I'm going to come back here to my code and go here to my indicator. Notice that I have 2 tabs at the very top of my development environment. And instead of just plotting plot number 1, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to add 2 forward slashes, and notice how it turns the line green. This is a way for you to comment out certain pieces of your code. It comes in very handy, and I just typed in 2 forward slashes and it removes the line. It doesn't remove it, it just comments it out. So I'm going to right click and verify one more time. It verified, and I'm going to go back to my TradeStation, and doesn't that look better? Because now I'm not plotting the raw calculation, now I'm just plotting the average. And you can see where it crosses from negative to positive, and you can see right here, for example, where my cursor is, it was negative, it went to the positive side, and guess what we have here? A show me dot. And then over here, it was positive all this time, and then it crossed to the negative side, and guess what? We have a show me dot at the very top. So it's following the conditions of my indicator. The show me, we built it the same. It's the actual same formula. And the show me is just plotting whenever the condition is true. If it crosses, show me. This is a great way for you to see historical occurrences of something that you want to track. Let's go to our next exercise. Exercise number 6. We have a couple more exercises to do, and we'll end the class. We're going to create a strategy. So this is how do you create a strategy? We just created an indicator, which is very interesting. Now this strategy will generate long entries when the real body oscillator crosses over the 0 line, and it will generate short entries when the real body oscillator crosses under the 0 line. So the strategy is always in the market. Long entries will exit short positions, and short entries will exit long positions. So this concept that we were talking about, when we look here at TradeStation, whenever this line that you see at the bottom, if it goes to the positive side, we're going to take a long trade, thinking that it's going to maintain itself on the positive side. And whenever it goes down to the negative side, we're going to take a short trade, thinking that it's going to continue to go down. It's a very simple strategy. Don't think that this is the winning strategy. I would be trading it at the moment, and I'm not. But this is just to show you how you can take one simple idea and turn it into something that you can trade and backtest. So let's go ahead and go to the development environment. And we are going to go to New or File New and click on Strategy. My strategy is going to be called Real Body Cross Buy Sell. Real Body Cross Buy Sell. And I'm not going to use a template, so I'm going to set that to none. I click OK, and then I have my code in there. So I need some formulas, and I'm just going to take this one right here. That's my value 1. I copy that and put it right here in my strategy. This is value 1, average. We already talked about the formula, and this is what the strategy will look like. If value 1 crosses over 0, then buy. Next bar at market. We're just going to do a market order, but you can do fancy calculations here and do limits and stop markets and profit targets and stop losses. The language is very robust, but for now we're just going to use at market. So if it crosses, buy next bar at market. Let's do the other side. If value 1 crosses under 0, then sell short next bar at market. Okay, so the conditions evaluated on this bar, and it's triggered on the following. Let's go ahead and see how this looks like. I'm going to right click, verify my code, and that's it. It's not very complex, has a few lines of text. Let's go ahead and see how that looks on my chart. I'm going to come over here to my TradeStation, and I'm going to go to Study and add a strategy. Now we have to go to the strategy section of TradeStation. And in the list of strategies, I see my real body, cross, buy, and sell. I'm going to click OK. I'm not going to do any formatting, so I'm just going to click OK. And this will buy and sell historically. Use strategies without worrying about the strategy trading automatically for you. Right now I just inserted a strategy and it's fine. It'll show me buys and sell historically, but it will not buy going forward unless I tell it to. So the strategy, you can see that, let's take a look at what it's doing here. When there's a crossover to the negative side, you see a red arrow, that's a short trade. And when the line here goes to the positive side, I see a blue arrow. That's the way how the strategy is going to identify buys and sells historically. And if I scroll back, I can see how the strategy does that on all the history that's loaded here on the chart. And the trades you can see that are color-coded. So whenever you see a blue dotted line, that's a winning trade. And whenever you see a red line, it's a losing trade. What if I wanted to see a report on this? Did the strategy make money or not? Well, right here in the data, little drop down, I can go to the strategy performance report. So once you have a strategy in place, you can go to the strategy performance report and see how it behaved. It compiles all the trading activity, and you can see how the total net profit for this backtest period, if you look at the top over here, you can see the date. It was from February of 2016 to February of 2018. We have a loss of almost $2,000 and a total number of trades of 71. Now you can make any changes to the strategy and this report will change automatically. So if you want to see how the strategy behaves, for example, on Apple, I just change the symbol. And this is the performance on Apple. If you had traded this strategy on Apple, you would have made $1,512 in a 2-year period. Not very impressive, but you can see that by changes the symbol, the data is different, but the strategy is the same. The rules are the same, it's just using different data points, and that's why it changes the performance of a strategy. Let's talk about modifying existing indicators, because that's something that you may want to do or not. Let's go ahead and go back here to TradeStation and I'll show you one example very quickly. And let me just leave this workspace as it is. I'm just going to add a new workspace, and I'm going to open up a new chart analysis window. In this chart, I'm going to add an RSI value. So let's go ahead and go to Studies, Add Study, and in the indicator list, I'm going to show you an RSI. Okay, that's the RSI, the default RSI that you probably are aware of. Let's go and change this chart to a daily chart. Perfect. What if you're looking at the RSI value and you say, it would be great to have an average of the RSI value, not just the raw RSI calculation, but an average. I'm going to show you how you can modify this, okay? So I'm going to right-click on this indicator. This is a quick shortcut. And notice that from the right-click menu, you get the option to edit the EasyLanguage for the RSI. It opens up the RSI code right here on my screen. Sorry about the font, it's pretty big, so I'm just going to try to show it to you as well as I can. I'm going to, instead of making changes to this original indicator, I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to call this exclamation my RSI. I'll click OK, and that way it turns this new indicator into something that you can modify. Here we have the plot statement. So we know that I can come here to the plot statement and I can add a fourth one, plot 4, and I know that I'm going to create an average. So I type in the word average, open up parentheses. What is it that I'm averaging here? Well, what I'm averaging here is this value, the RSI. Here you see the RSI function, which is stored in this word RSI value. So I'm going to copy the RSI value word and I'm going to put it right here inside my average function. And I'm going to tell my indicator to average this for 10 bars. I close my parentheses, close the parentheses for the plot statement, and then end this with a semicolon. That's it. I just went into the code, I added an additional line. Now I have to right-click on this and I click on Verify. Let me go back to my TradeStation. That's the original RSI right there at the bottom, right? I'm going to go to Studies, Add Study, scroll to the very top. That's where my RSI is, exclamation, my RSI, and I click OK. Now take a look at the other indicator that showed up at the bottom. It's a brand new indicator, but now it has a plot that shows you the average of the RSI. So even though the RSI right now it's 50.79, the average for the past 10 bars is 35.51. This is great stuff. I just took one of the built-in indicators of TradeStation and I made it my own by adding a average on it. Exercise number 8. This is our last exercise, which is one of the, I would say, the coolest exercises that are available in this class, because it allows you to monitor list of symbols and look at the values of those different symbols. I'm going to come over here to a new workspace, and I'm going to open up Radar Screen. In Radar Screen, I'm going to go to Data, Add Symbol List, and I'm going to start off with the Dow Jones Industrial. Let me make this window bigger. These are the 30 symbols in the Dow Jones. Let's go ahead and change the data interval. You see the interval here. Okay, you're not looking at my TradeStation. Hold on. Okay, this is my TradeStation. Sorry about that. I just created a radar screen. I went to Data, Add Symbol, and I added the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And this column right here, the interval column, I want to use daily bars. So I'm going to click on Symbol Header and change all the symbols to daily. You can see that daily is now displayed under interval. And I'm going to add the same indicator that I created for charting. So I'm going to come over here, add real body. All right, I'm going to add it right here. I'm going to click OK. In Radar Screen, you see how every plot that you create or that you add to your code is going to create a column, including the 0 that we have in charting. We don't need that 0 here. So I'm going to right click, go to Studies, and I'm going to show hide and hide plot number 3. I'm only interested in plot number 2, which is the real body average. And I'm going to do something else. I'm going to right click, go to Studies, and edit the real body for all symbols, because I'm going to show you something interesting here. I'm going to load additional data for accumulative calculations. You see, in charting, this indicator that we created was created for charting, and charting has all the data already loaded into it. Radar screen does not. Radar screen just waits to see how much data the indicator needs, and it'll just use that. So if you have some calculations that rely on historical data, you have to come here and make sure that we provide that data onto the screen. I'm going to add additional 50 bars. I'm going to click OK. And there we go. We have the values here that you can sort and see which values are positive. If you double click again, you see which values are negative. This is real body average. Not only that, but you can create alerts now. I can right click on the header here, go to Studies, go to real, let's format every single one, go to Alerts, and enable alert. I think I showed you this on the radar screen, the radar screen class, but I'm going to show it to you again. So I turn on the alert, and all the ones that have a red marker are the ones that are crossing right now. If I go to settings, in fact, I can do it right here with these new drop-downs. I can say, give me the real body plot alert true. So by using these filters at the top of my radar screen, I'm able to tell my radar screen, just show me the ones that are giving me the alert, and these are the ones. You can plot an indicator, put it in radar screen, and have the radar screen indicator take a look at all those symbols and tell you exactly which symbols are triggering the alert. So let's talk about what's next. We have some EasyLanguage seminars. You know, it's really hard to teach you to program EasyLanguage in just 60 minutes or 90 minutes. We have two classes. We have the EasyLanguage Bootcamp, and we have a class called Implementing Objects in EasyLanguage. One is a follow-up to the other. So Implementing Objects is more like an advanced class, but if you're just getting started with programming, we have a 2-day seminar, which is delivered online, so you don't have to even leave your house to come to these seminars. So the EasyLanguage Bootcamp and Implementing Objects in EasyLanguage are classes that are online already. We also have a few books that you can download from the web. We have an EasyLanguage Home Study course, Learning EasyLanguage Strategies, and EasyLanguage Objects Home Study course. In fact, if you click on any of those books right there from within that ad, it'll take you to this page. This is the page where you download some free books and then you purchase some of the home study courses we have available. I want to thank everyone for the time that you dedicated to this class. Hopefully the information was clear. I want to apologize for, and I hope to see everyone in a future class, whether it is online or in person. I really appreciate the fact that you are part of the TradeStation family. So everyone, have a great afternoon, and see you in a future event here at TradeStation. Bye-bye.